In this video, I'm going to show you how to make your band workouts much more effective. Now, right off the bat, I gotta say that bands are not the most effective tool when it comes to building strength, building muscle. They are convenient, they are cheap, they're easy to bring around because they're so lightweight, but they're not the best tool. When you think about the strength curve, it doesn't necessarily match very well. Yes, certain machines don't help you out with the strength curve either. Barbells, dumbbells, there is an aspect of skill to things, but there's an aspect of skill with bands, there's an aspect of skill with a lot of different things as well. But what I'm going to show you today is going to allow you, if you are someone who's using bands, or maybe just purchased them and you're not using them yet, but you want to start using them, here's how you can help match the strength curve and make it so that you're affecting the target muscles that you're trying to train and getting much more out of it. Also, making sure that you're doing things safely, because when we use bands, you can pull on the band to do the work and it can pull you into different positions because it does get harder as you tend to get weaker in a lot of these movements. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but some of the examples I'm going to show you, all right, are going to explain why bands might not necessarily be that effective for it. So right off the bat, what you can do is just do isometrics. So if you take a band, and I've got one set up here, so this is something I've used with clients and stuff just to mimic, because I don't have all the machinery and I do use bands, but again, I'm going to show you how I use them. Is I can just do isometrics. So say if I'm doing a bicep curl, I can just pull up and hold, I can pull up and hold, okay, depending on the motion that I want. I can do isometrics, because if I'm using the band, think about a band, right? As I let the band get smaller, it's a lot easier in regard to, or there's a lot less tension on the band. If you buy a band, it'll have a tension number on it. It'll say like 45 to 70 pounds. Like it's gonna be 45 at its weakest, 70 pounds at its height. But think about this. Right here, I'm holding on to this with my fingertips, okay? Talk about 45 pounds or whatever poundage this might be, 30 pounds. This is, I have if anything, all right, there's slack in the band. As soon as I put slack in the band, maybe there's some tension on there, but it's very minimal. So from here, there's nothing, okay, there's slack, to here, now I have some band, but that motion was nothing. From here to here, it's easy. From here to here, it's getting harder. From here to here, it's the hardest. So if I'm not getting anything out of this bottom, basically half of the range, why go there? Well, what you can do is, again, you can just do isometrics and just hold, okay, in the highest tension. Now this for me is not that much, so you can increase the tension by standing maybe on both ends of the band, all right? And there's lots of different types of bands. These are just the circle loop bands. You can stand with one foot on each side. So if I have one foot, that's easier. 2 feet, that's going to make it harder, all right? So again, the less band that you have, and I'm sure those are some things that you're already doing if you're using bands. But an isometric will allow that tension. The band wants to be pulling down as you're holding on. So think about a dumbbell. As I pull up on the dumbbell's got the same force from the bottom all the way up. Now my strength might be different because I'm a little bit stronger here than I am from here to here, because this is the furthest that the lever is, all right? The lever arm is furthest from the fulcrum, so that's gonna be harder, right? And it's gonna get somewhat easier as we come up, and then there's easy again as we get to this position. So you can hold in that difficult position, or you can hold at the strong position, because the band is gonna get harder as it gets stretched. So you wanna take that in consideration with your band, and you can do something like this. Let's just say the band is really easy at this bottom range, but it's really hard at this top range. I can just do half reps up here when I have maybe 1 foot in. Then I can make less, or I can make more tension on the band by standing with 2 feet, widening it up. And then now I'm just gonna do the bottom half. So I can get the full range with resistance, but I can't do that all in one, because a band is, again, it's stretching, and you might think, well, I can do the full range. If you can do the full range, what you want to think about is you're only really getting work on that second half of the range. The next example it's going to illustrate this a little bit better, because this bicep, is a little bit awkward, with bands. Again, they're not the best tool, but if you're using them, think about that range. The top half, all right, or when the band's getting stretched the most, that's when it's the hardest. When it's barely getting stretched, you're barely doing any work. Another thing that you can do is, in combination with that, is do the isometrics and do the shorter range. So I'm here, I'm gonna start halfway, and then I'm gonna come and squeeze, hold, coming down, pause, and then coming back up, hold, coming down, pause, coming up, hold. So I can hold in the hardest range when the band is stretched the most to get a little bit more out of it. I can also use speed. So speed is something that I don't suggest most people do, but with a band, because I'm not using a ton of momentum just to get the weight up, the band is stretching, and the way that the band is positioned will play into that, right? So if I have a good angle as I pull up, okay, if I'm not leaning back into it, I can keep it relatively safe. Again, it's not the best thing to go fast, but you want to watch your form and your technique. But let's just say I want to spend more time under tension with that high, that lengthened part of the band, right? That where it's like at that high tension. I can start here, right? I can pull and then control it down. Or I can pull, hold, and then control. So I'm spending very little time at this bottom range, okay? I'm getting more of my time, if I was gonna count the amount of seconds, if I was going from here to here and coming down, I'm spending maybe half a second in that bottom range and then coming up. So I can get rid of that bottom range, or I can come up quick and then control it back down, come up quick and control it back down. So you can mess around with the tempo, you can do isometrics, you can mess around with the length of the band by using 1 foot, 2 foot. But the main idea behind it is when the band is contracting, meaning it's getting smaller as you're lowering it, as it's getting easier, you're not getting any real load on your muscles, unless if the band is really, really heavy. And then if you're doing that, if the band is super, super heavy, it's gonna get dangerous for you to come up. Let me give you an example. Let's just say I have a band that's really challenging as I do a little lateral raise here. So I'm taking this band and I'm opening it up, okay? And it's really hard for me to lift it up. Now I can do it, but it's hard for me to get it up. I want to use momentum. I shrug my shoulder or whatever it might be. Well, again, think about it. As the band stretches in this position, it's getting harder and harder and harder as I get weaker. If I was going to design a machine for the shoulder, I'd want it to be the hardest here and the easiest here at the top. This is the hardest range of motion. Remember that lever arm, all right, where the hand is connected to it, is going to be the furthest here and the shortest here from the center. Boom, boom. So if it's really hard up here, what you can do is, again, do the same sort of thing. Harder, I'm going to do short range. Then either I'm going to use a lighter band and do the top range and then only come halfway down. Or if you don't have the extra band, you can step. So maybe my foot is here and I'm grabbing on here, and then I do that for the hard range, and then I step wider, give me more band to make it easier to go in that top range. So you want to mess around with the length of the band to find the right tension, but be thinking, okay, when am I strongest in the range of motion, okay? This is when I'm the weakest on that lateral raise. This is when I'm the strongest. Well, if I'm using the same band, okay, I'm getting all this excess work, right, for up here, but I'm missing out on this range of motion here, just like the bicep curl, right? I'm missing out on this range of motion here. Now you can say screw range of motion and just go isometric. That's fine as well, but you want to make sure that band is going to be challenging enough for you so that when it's pulling against you, you're getting good amounts of work done. Again, any program, any training, any stimulus has to be intense enough for you to get results. That's why so many people have different programs and different training programs, and people use bands and people use body weight and people use machines and people use dumbbells and people use barbells. Everybody gets results if you work. They all work if you work. That's the saying, right? So you gotta work hard, but you wanna work smartly, and you wanna think, look, just because I'm doing all these repetitions with the band coming up and down, the muscle is getting this break every time I come down in that second half of range of motion. As I come down in that second half of range of motion, so be thinking when you go into your exercises, when am I strongest? When is this the hardest? When is this the easiest? And adjust the bands accordingly for that. Get stronger bands, get easier bands, make sure that you're versatile, use your feet, pushing things around. If you're tying things to walls, if I'm doing like a row, let's just say, and I've got it attached to something, okay, it's a really, really strong band, so I'm closer, okay, boom, and I can pull all the way. Well, again, when I'm here to here, I'm not getting any work that first half of the range. Here to here, I'm getting the work. So what do? You back up, and then you do some more, and maybe you can't pull it all the way because it's hard, so it's short range. So you want to work both ranges on that. Throw in some isometrics, just holding the band, okay? Switch it up, but again, be thinking about that strength curve. When are you strongest? When are you weakest? Design your workouts around that. And if you want me to design workouts, or if you want me to give you more examples, I only gave you a few exercises here in this video, then shoot me a comment, let me know, hey, I like this, didn't like this, whatever it is, but I want to see more, or I want to see an entire workout. Okay, again, I've got dumbbells, you can probably see them in the corner, adjustable, so I use those. I use body weight, got a chin-up bar, so I've got different tools that I use for myself. TRX, another, that's a body weight suspension trainer. So again, the load is going to stay more constant. With bands, the load isn't constant, so you have to get creative about how you design things to make sure that you're not just throwing it up, getting work on different muscles that you want on that last half range of motion, and then barely getting any range or getting any work on the bottom half or on the one half. Like, let's just say I do a push-up, okay? There's no resistance for me here at the bottom if the band is wrapped around me. Some people do this on the ground. I'm here. There's no resistance here, but there's a ton of resistance here. So what's getting all that work? My triceps versus my chest in this range. So again, you want to be thinking creatively about the exercises you're doing, the bands that you have at your disposal, and that strength curve. When am I the strongest? When am I the weakest? When is the band going to be hardest? When it's longest? When the band is going to be weakest? When it's at its shortest? So be thinking about that, input that into your program. Let me know how it goes. Again, if you'd like to see more examples, because I only gave a few, write a comment, say, hey, what about this exercise? What about this? What about this body part? And I'll help you out. Until next time, I'll see you then.